Okay, so today it's lecture 8. So let me share this. Sorry, one or two groups asked me about their projects, asked for a time to discuss their project. Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't respond. Right, so today, yeah, probably this afternoon. Or maybe tomorrow morning would be better. Yeah. So just give me a call, right? Actually, I have been a bit busy this week, so that's why I couldn't respond. But when I was free, so I forgot to answer. So that's what happened. So tomorrow morning, so if you can call me, so if I want, I can share Zoom link to join. So then you can. Right. So there's one single member, right? Like other members of his groups were not responding, and there's one student so he's going to continue as a single person group, as he said. But so we'll discuss that. Right. So yeah. So tomorrow morning, right? So you can message me and then just send me a message. So can I talk to you now? And then you can call, right? So we can discuss. Any other groups, if you want to ask questions, if you want to explain your progress, or if you want to explain some changes. I mean, changes are always welcome. So if you cannot continue with the original proposal that I checked, I already checked. So if you cannot continue with that, go ahead and do any changes. That's fine, right? So if you want to change the technology that you are using, if you want to change the idea, the first initial idea that you explained to me, if you want to change that, that's fine. That's totally fine, no problem. You don't have to get any permission from. So if you are changing, for example, whatever you change, whatever you choose, the main objective of this project should be preserved. So that means it has to be a programming project. I mean, programming has to be involved. It's not just a website, right? It's not just a static website. It has backend. If it is a web application, there should be a backend, right? So programming has to be involved. So any programming language, HTML is not considered as a programming language. So programming languages are like, so for example, in web-based applications, it would be so PHP, Node.js, so JSP, .NET, ASP. So those technologies are okay. But if it is just a static HTML website, so that's not permitted, right? So that's already, so I have explained that rule, right? So other than that, if you do any changes within that restrictions within that rules, so then that's fine. So if you want to change the technology, if you want to change the idea, so if you want to add something, whatever, you can do without my permission. Huh? Okay, so that's on projects. And as I told you, so most probably next week, next week it is the Christmas time, right? Yeah, next week, so Wednesday. So I was thinking of Friday, but it is the day before the Christmas, so it is going to be a holiday. Yes, maybe in 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks is it is again 31st. So if it is okay with you, I can arrange like just open sessions to discuss the progress and your questions. Yeah. So let's see how it goes. So like, I mean, anyway, 22nd, we are going to meet for the next lecture. So there we can discuss what can we do, right? Okay. Yeah. Right. So then tomorrow morning, so if you have questions, just send me a message. So then we can have a discussion. Right. Okay. So let me share the screen. Right. Okay. So I hope you can see the screen. So last week we were in the discussion of the functions. So what are the functions? So what is the use of the functions in the process of creating programs, C programs? So as I told you, a function is like a specialist worker, right? So we keep that specialist worker, and then when that worker's service is necessary, we call that worker and get the help, right? We just give a specific task. So that's a function, right? It's like a subroutine. So if you have a main task, so it's like a subtask of under the main task that we are going to do with our program. Right. So in functions, so there are when we are using functions, so we have to consider 3 steps, right? So function definition, function declaration, and function calling. So we talked about function definition last week, right? So the function definition is we create the function, right? So it is like a specialized worker. So it is a process of making specialized work, right? Can be a specialized worker kenek hadaddi apiyata makari දැනුම දීලා training එක දීලා ඒ කට්ටිය හදන process එක වගේ වැඩක් තමයි මෙතනදී කරන්නේ. So we create the function and we keep it, right? So let's go with some examples. Functions, yeah. So we have a project. I already created the project, right? Like, yeah, this one. So in this function, in this program, so I have created a function, right? So this is the function definition, right? Function definition. Right? Create the function. The actual body of the function is created, right? So I told you function is like a machine, right? So in most of the machines, we have inputs and then the functionality or the body and then the output, right? So all these parts are in a function definition, right? So we have the output type and then the function name and then the inputs or the parameter list, right? So usually in a function, so there is only one output. Only the function can have only one output. Only one thing can be output. And then, but however, as inputs, we can take multiple items, multiple values, right? So to get those multiple values, so we have a parameter list. So parameter list is a collection of variables. So variables of the input types, right? In this case, there are 2 integers. So we need 2 integers as inputs. To get those integers, so we define 2 variables. Those are called parameters. So parameters are variables, but they are special variables. So they are used in the function header. In the function definition, function header එකේ පාවිච්චි කරන variables අපි කියනවා parameters. Okay. So those are normal variables. However, their purpose is special. So that's why we call them parameters. Those are parameters. So the values that we input are taken into these parameters, and then those values are used inside the function with this variable name. So it is like sometimes, I don't know, like, so when do you, suppose when you order some food, right? So if you are going to eat bread, right? So then you realize that there is no curry or anything to eat with the bread. So then you go to the shop or the small restaurant or takeaway or whatever the shop nearby, and then you ask, so please give me some curry, right? So then you pay the money, and then so in most of the places they have some plastic bags, polythene bags. They put curry in there and give it to you. But instead, what you can do is you can bring your own container, right? Small podi me මොකරි කැම පෙට්ටියක් හරි මොනවාරි භාජනයක් අරන් යන්න පුළුවන්. You can take your own container and you can take that curry into that. Okay, please put that into this, right? So then so usually like using plastic bags, it is not healthy, right? Like, I mean, there are a lot of bad in the perspective of health. So polythene or that plastic bags are bad, right? So instead of, you can bring your own so aluminium or whatever the content. So it is something like this, right? Like these functions containers, right? So the food is put into these containers, and then we use those container, like those food inside thing, right? එතකොට අපි ගෙදර අරන් ගිහලා අපි අර භාජනයේ තියෙන කෑම දැන් ඒ භාජනයට දාපු කාර්ය එක තමයි අපි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. ඒතර මේ so those containers are like this. So those are parameters, right? So parameter list. And then the function body. So we have the function body, and then if we have return type here, so then you have to give a return statement. Return any value. So if it is an integer, it could be just a direct return value or integer variable. So then it will return the value of this integer, right? So this is function definition. So the function definition in C program consists of function header and the function body, right? So we define the function. So the return type function may return a value. Return a value, not values, just one value. Always remember that. The data type of that return value should be declared in the function header. It could be any data type or void in a case of no return value. If you don't have to return a value, then we put that part as void, right? That means no return value. So why it is not return value? In some cases, there could be no return value. So why is that? The reason is, it is how we have designed, or it is based on the purpose of the function. The function is defined, or functions are created based on our necessity of the function requirement. Based on the requirement, we create function, right? Not any other reasons, right? Just to create the functions, we don't create functions. Functions are created only if necessary, right? නැතුව මේ කියන්නේ මොකක්වත් මේ අපිට ඔළුවේ අමාරුවකට වගේ නෙමෙයි functions කියන්නේ. functions ලියන්නේ අපේ අවශ්‍යතාවය, right? එතකොට අපි දැන් program එක ලියද්දි අපි බලනවා මෙන්න මෙතෙන්ට function එකක් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ඕනේ. සමහරවිට මෙතෙන්ට function එකක් තිබුණොත් හොඳයි. මෙතන තිබුණොත් මේකේ මේ efficient වැඩි. එහෙම හිතලා තමයි අපි function එක ලියන්නේ. ඒතර function එක ලියද්දි අපි බලනවා මේ function එකේ මොකක්ද අපිට කරගන්න, what we need from this function. So first we have to decide that. So based on that we decide, okay, the function name. So we have to give a meaningful name, and then what are the inputs we want here. So then we decide that, and then what we have to return. What is the output of this function? So based on that, we decide the function, right? We define the function. And then function name, this is the actual name of the function. So naming conventions are applied here, right? So I told you, when you are naming variables, so there are some rules. So the same rules are applied here, right? Then parameters, so those are the inputs as I told you. Parameter is a variable to hold the input value to the function. ගාර හොදි එක ගන්න container එක. දැන් හොදි දැන් අපි කියමු දැන් කරිස් දෙකක් ඕනේ. හරි. දැන් එකකින් පාන් කන්න බෑ, දෙකක් තිබුණා නම් හොඳයි, පරිප්පුයි මාළුයි. right? එතකොට පරිප්පු ගන්න එක container එකයි, මාළු ටික ගන්න එක container එකයි. ඊට පොල් සම්බෝලත් ඕනේ කියලා. එතකොට පොල් සම්බෝල ගන්න තව පොඩි එකක් උනත් කමක්. right? එදිරේ based on the input value, so we have to decide what type of containers we need, right? So parameter is a variable to hold the input value of the function, data type of the parameter, and name is given. Okay. So parameters are optional. A function may contain no parameters, right? So in some cases, we don't need inputs, right? The function name and the parameter list together constitute the function signature. So function signature is the name of the function and the parameter list, not the input type, right? So sorry, the return type. Excluding the return type, other parts are considered as the function signature. Okay, right. So then the function body, the body of the function body contains a collection of statements that define what the function does, right? So this is the function body. So here, so in this case, it is just one line. It could be multiple lines, any number of lines. Like sometimes some functions are 100 lines, right? 10, 20, 50, 100. So it could be more. But I mean, it is so always recommended to have few lines in the function body. If the function is too lengthy, right, it is not a good practice, right? So don't write too lengthy bodies, function bodies, right? Function body එක පුළුවන් තරම් කෙටි කියන්නේ short කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් හොඳයි, right? In some cases it is not possible, but always try, like, always remember that, make it short as possible. So if you are a good programmer, good programming is not just writing hundreds of or thousands of lines. Good programming is writing programs which are readable, reusable, then efficient programs, right? On the programmer කෙනෙක් කියලා කියන්නේ නිකන් ලොකු programs ලියන එක නෙවෙයි, ලියන lines දෙක හරි efficient විදියට, reusable විදියට. මේ ලියන programmer තමයි අපි කියන්නේ මේ හොඳ programmer. Right? So if you are a good programmer, always try to make functions shorter. Functions or methods, like in object-oriented programming in, for example, in Java. So those are called methods. Okay. Right, then a return statement. At the end of the body, there is a return statement as the return of the function. If return type is void, return statement is not necessary. Function can have only one return value. Okay. Right, so these are some examples of function definitions. Right, so for example, here, so we print several values, set of values. So the return type is void, and then introduction is the name. Right? For example, okay, I'm going to write a function here, void introduction. Okay, so then no return type and no inputs, right? I just print something. Okay. So let's copy this. Right? This is a function. This function, what it does, it prints 3 lines. Hi, my name is Saman. How are you? That's all. I mean, it is very simple, right? It is very simple. I don't know the use of this function, but still it is a function. Right. And this is another function, like if we take this function, so I will copy that one as it is. So in this function, so see how I have written them. Like this is the main function. Huh? This is the main function. So outside that, I have written all these functions. Huh? This is the function that we discussed last week. Okay. This function and this function. The return type, it is float. Calculate bonus. Calculating the bonus. So that's the, like, by looking at the name, you can identify, okay, so this function is calculating the bonus. Right? To calculate the bonus, we need the salary. Right? Float salary is the input. Right? So when you name, when you are naming the parameters, right? Give meaningful parameter names, right? Like by looking at that, so we know, okay, so we need to input the salary here. Salary එක තමයි මෙතෙන්ට දෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා අපි දන්නවා දැක්ක ගාව. So give meaningful name always for variables, parameters, methods. So then we return what we return. So we return this calculation. So what does this mean? So we are returning the output or the result of this calculation. We are returning the result of so if I do something like this, so this is a calculation, right? So we have salary, then we multiply it with this value. So 20 divided by 100. Right. The bonus is 20%. The salary again 20% bonus. Right. Right. So we do some calculation. Right. Actually, we don't need this one here. We don't need. We can do this calculation like this, no problem. But for the clarity, we did this just. Okay, so we can do something else. Right? We can create, for example, variable. Get the output into this variable x, right? And then we can return that x. That's also fine. But for that, we need an additional variable just to store the output or the result of this. So don't confuse with the output of the function. Huh? Don't confuse with the output of the function. So the result of this calculation is assigned to x, right? And then we can return that result value using return x. Instead of doing that, right? Instead of using a variable, additional storage, right? We can directly return this result. It is possible. Right? Can we then calculate calculation calculation result ඒක ඉස්සරහින් return කියලා දැම්මොත් මේකේ result එක කෙලින්ම return. Right. So that's what we need. Does the main function have functions? Okay, so I will answer that later, right? Right, float, calculate bonus, we get input as salary, then we calculate the bonus value. Right. So why it is 20? So 20, why it is 20? Because it could be given to us. When someone asks to write this program, so then that person should provide these values. Bonus එක calculate කරන්න function එකක් ලියන්න. ඒතර bonus එක වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ value එක කියලා එයා දෙන්න ඕනේ කවුරු හරි. ඒක අනුව තමයි මේ මෙතන මේ වැලියු එක. මම මෙතන 20 කියලා දාලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක මම හිතලා කවුරු හරි දෙන වැලියු එක තමයි මෙතෙන්ට දාන්නේ. Right. Okay. Okay, so this is a function, right? So then here we have another function, right? Like so I'm just putting all these functions into this program, right? To make it like Sri Lankan pickle, right? It doesn't matter. You can add any number of functions, no problem, right? So usually, like when you're adding functions like this, usually we give some explanation on top of the function as a comment, right? What is the purpose of this function? Like calculate the bonus value from the salary, and then we can add some additional lines. So if you want, but at least give an very basic introduction. Give a very basic introduction to this function. So then anyone who sees this would understand what this function does, right? So so this one, find result, right? So the if we take this name, find results, which result, right? Which result, right? So this name is not very good in my opinion, right? Of course it is one example that I have given, but I mean find results also, then which results, that question would be there. But if you can provide a comprehensive name, so then the name would speak for itself. So let's see int marks. So we take marks as an integer value, then the output is char. All right, okay. So here, so this is this program is kind of a crazy program, so I'll change a little, right? So the char result, or I'll change it as grade. So it is giving, when marks is given, it'll output the grade, right? You did a similar program, right? So then the grade, we assign F at the beginning, and then if marks are greater than 50, we change it. So fail or pass, right? So then this is what we written. Find, so we can change the name as grade. Right? So in that previous program that you have written, so let me open that. So you can open another project. Programming practice, maybe 2. Yeah. Yeah. Here, see. So this is this program. So you can you can copy that if you want. Right. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. See, fine grade. Marks are given, then the grade is right. So I'll put I. So sometimes be careful. Sometimes when you copy from the PDF, so this double quote, so single quote, sometimes it is not the exact character that we are expecting. Right. So it was like this. So this is not what we use in programming. So this is what we use, what we need. So in such cases, change them. Change them accordingly. Right. Okay. Right. So add comments. Add comments to these lines. So that's for the clarity. And then when marks are given, so we can get the grade. See? So if I ask you to write this program in 2-3 lines, that's not possible, right? So in some cases, based on the necessity, so we have to have some lengthy programs. මේ program එකේදී අපිට මේකේ length එක මීට වඩා අඩු කරන්න විදිහක් නැහැ. අපි check කරන්න එපා මේ හැම එකම check කරලා. So this is a function. So these are function definition. Yeah, now we go to function declaration, but before that, so I had a question. So previously, does the main function have functions? Actually, I don't get the question clearly. So who's asking this? Sajita. So what do you mean by, does the main function have functions? So what do you mean? So you mean inside main function? So inside main function, we write functions? Yeah, okay. So something like this. So instead of this one, for example, like you write a function. No. So it cannot be done, right? Right? It cannot be done in Java, right? In Java, so these kind of structures are used, but in C, it is not possible, right? It is not possible. Functions are written separately, right? The function is not below, it is not inside the main function. It does not belong to the main function. So those are independent entities, right? See, these functions are outside of main function. So if we take a C program, so we have functions. So we have set of functions, independent functions. Like we have int main function, and then we have open brace, close brace, so whatever the code is here, and then outside, like this is the main function. So outside that we have other functions, int x, y, z, another function, like whatever the function, yeah. Okay. Right. So let's go to any other questions? A function declaration, right? So then function declaration, the second step, right? So we have defined the function, we have created the function, then function declaration. It's like, as I told you, registration of the function, right? Like, so when you find a partner, right? Like a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and then so you think, okay, so now like so I'm going to live with this person for the rest of my life, right? So then you decide to express or tell it to the world, right? So I'm going to live with this person forever, right? In order to do that, you go to a person who register, right? So marriage register, and then you register you register that that you are husband and wife, right? That's like even without registration, you can be as partners, right? Like, so you can buy a house and you can live together. So that's possible, right? But it is not like, according to Sri Lankan law, in some countries, they have laws, like even without registering as a husband and wife. So there are some rules for that. But in Sri Lanka, so you can do that. Of course, you can do that, no problem. There's no, from the law, there is no restriction. There are no restrictions to live with your partner, no problem. But when it comes to the law, as I know, so I'm not a lawyer or law expert. So you cannot prove so that that you are your husband and wife without registration. Right? So that's why registration is important, right? Just to prove, right? So registration. So that's one register. Like if you buy a vehicle, so any vehicle, even a motorbike, so you register that you are the owner of that vehicle. So if you make a new house, you register, right? So then it is like the government knows that you are the owner of that house. And then if you are so if you want to vote, so you have to register, right? So likewise, the register, even without registration, you are there, right? Even without registration, you can use your vehicle. Even without registration, you can live in your house. But like this is just a legalization for expressing that your ownership. So expressing that you and your partner are like husband and wife, right? So that is what we do in declaration. So we declare that we are having such function. To do that, on top of the program, right? On top of the program, right here, right? So after these preprocessor directives, right? So before the main function, we declare our function. So we just say, okay, so we have created this kind of function. You can just put it like this. So this is the declaration. But here, you don't have to mention the names of the parameters. Parameter names are not necessary. This is enough. So then the idea is like the compiler and then the other files. So I'll explain that other file story later, right? So other files, they know that this file is having this kind of function. That function has the name of this, and then it has a return type integer, and then it is taking two parameters. First one is integer, the second one is char. Right? Now it know, and then all the people know. Like, so after the marriage registration, so all the people know, so usually like in Sri Lanka, so we, instead of the marriage, right, like it takes only maybe less than 10,000 or something. I don't remember exactly the amount, registration fee. So it is less than 20,000, right? Apart from that marriage registration, the people do something else, which is called the wedding, right? Like maybe register කරනවට අමතර wedding කියලා එකකුත් ගන්නවා. ඒකට සාමාන්‍ය යනවා ලක්ෂ ගාණක් යනවා. මේ එහෙම එකකුත් කරනවා. එතකොට කොහොමත් ලෝකෙම දැනගන්නවා දැන් මේ දෙන බැඳලා කියලා. Right? මේක තමයි මේ වැඩින්න එක. මේ ලෝකෙටම කියනවා දැන් අපි මෙන්න මෙහෙම ෆන්ක්ෂන් එකක් මෙතන තියෙනවා. So we have that function. So this is like the wedding, right? So we tell that okay, so this function is there. Right? So when you usually like when you are using code blocks, so even without declaration, you can work, right? And if it is just one file, you can work, no problem. Declaration is not mandatory. It is optional actually when you are using code blocks. Right. So, however, you should know it's not working in all cases. So, in some environments, so you may have to, this declaration is mandatory. It is necessary, right? If you create a new function, you have to declare it on top of the file. Right to the this one, yeah, I'm declaring. Okay. So in declaration, you have to give the names and then what are the inputs and outputs, monawage inputs, outputs, the DNA. So like when in the marriage registration, so we have to give all the information. Our full names and then the jobs, and then someone has to be someone else has to sign that, right? And then දෙන්නෙකුට ගිහිල්ලා නිකන් එකපාරට ගිහිල්ලා බඳින්න බෑ. තව සාක්ෂියට දෙන්නෙක් ඕනේ මෙන්න මෙහෙම ඇත්තටම දෙයක් වුණා කියලා. හරි. So again, there are some necessities. So those should be there. Right. Right, okay, so this one, I declare that. Functions are okay. This one, I'm going to declare that. So if you have multiple functions, you have to. This is also fine. This is also fine. No problem. 100% okay. But this variable name is not mandatory. It is optional. This is optional. So this is declaring functions. We declare. So we express that these functions are here. We have created these functions. You can use them. Anyone can use them. So that's what we say. So like in the marriage case, so we marry someone. So then we express, okay, so so this person is mine. Now he's, so I am married to that person. Don't, okay, so don't try to take him or her, like he or she is mine. दाई में आता තියන්න එපා මෙන්න මෙයා මගේ කියලා මේ කියන එකනේ අපි මේ අතන රෙජිස්ට්‍රේෂන් එකේ කරන එක දෙයක් ඒකනේ අතන. So it is something like this. So this function is there. So here it says don't touch, but it says you can use it. You can use this function. right? So if we create a new machine, so we register that machine, we get the patent and we register that machine, then we say like, okay, so anyone can use this. Anyone can create this machine. So you have to pay some money to me. So then you can produce those machines and use or sell whatever you like, do that. So that's the declaration, function declaration. Right, so then in declaration, so we put the function header, and remember, so I forgot to mention, so you have to put semicolon at the end. So this is the function declaration. So there's a question about the usage of functions. So when we declare, so how it is used, right? So I'm going to explain that next, right? Next. So function declaration, I told you there are 3 parts here. When we work with functions, we have to do 3 things: function definition, function declaration, and then function calling. This is where we use function. So the function is there, function is declared, and then if you want to use that, you have to call the function, right? So it is like, so we have bought a machine, right? We have bought, for example, like this machine, right? So the rice mill machine. So we buy a rice mill machine. And then in front of the house, right? So you put a board, right? You are going to start a business, right? Right? So you are going to start a rice mill. So you buy this machine, and then you put a board in front of your house, right? Like whatever the name, right? Like, for example, Kavinda Vimola. So you put that name in front of the front of your house, right? So then you are waiting, right? Then you are waiting until someone is coming, right? If no one is coming, there's no use of that machine. Machine is created and it is there, and then, right? So you have declared that you have a machine. You have this machine, right? But no one is coming. So because maybe no crop, this this term, there are they because without fertilizer they couldn't get rice, so enough rice. So people are not coming. So then you are waiting. No use of that machine. If that machine is put into use, so someone has to call that, right? So someone should come with the rice and okay, so I need to polish this rice. So then only that machine can be used, right? So similar to that, so the function. So if we take a function, so these functions are there now, right? These bloody functions are there, right? Like, but still no one is using that, right? Right? Like, so there are some people like, I don't know whether there are TikTok people are in your batch, right? Definitely, at least, I mean, I'm pretty sure at least there should be 2, 3 TikTok people should be there at least, should be in this batch, right? So suppose you do a TikTok video and then if no one is watching, right? So then no use of that, right? No one is watching, no use of that attempt. So you put some effort to create those TikTok videos. So if no one is watching, you are not happy, right? So the purpose is not served. So likewise, so the function, someone should use that. So otherwise, there's no purpose of that function, no use of that function, right? In order to do that, someone should call this function. Right? May function call karan. Okay. How to call that function? For example, so I'm going to call that one of these functions. Suppose I'm going to call this function, find grade. How to call that function? We call by the name. How do you call your dog? Your dog in your house? So you call by name. So similarly, you call the function by its name. බල්ලට කතා කරනවා වගේ ෆන්ක්ෂන් එකට කතා කරද්දි නමින් තමයි කතා කරන්නේ. Right? So this is how we call the function, right? By name. Then no return type, but we can, so the function, this function is expecting inputs. We have to provide the input values. It is expecting input value, so we have to provide that input value. So what is the type here? Integer is expecting. Integer input is expecting. So we have to provide an integer. For example, 7. Find grade. So the grade, so this function would find the grade when we give the marks, right? So the marks should be entered, right? Mark should be entered. So then this value would be assigned to this variable. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about this in detail, right? So don't worry. So this is how we call that function. This is how we call that function. Okay. Okay, good. Good idea. So there's suggestion, let's run this program. Let's run this program. Okay. Okay, right. So before that, without this, I'm going to run this program. First, let's run without function code. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. I have to activate this project. Yeah. Now let's run this. Nothing happened because there's nothing in this program. There are a lot of functions, but any function, none of these functions are used. None of these functions are used. Right? So if you have a program, right? So C program. So if you have a C program like this, suppose we have int main. So we have main function, and then we have some other functions. I'm not going to write all those functions. So suppose this is one function, this is another function, and so on. So we have several functions. When this program is executed, compiler is looking for the main function. Compiler is looking for the main function. Then, if it finds a main function, that main function would be executed. This function would be executed. So it will go into the main function, first line, second line, and so on. The main function would be executed. That's all. It will execute the main function. What about these other functions? Those functions won't be executed by default. By default, only main function is executed. Remember that. Then what is the purpose of these other functions? We have written many functions here, no use of that function. To use those functions, we have to call that function. So for example, if we call this function, so here the main function is executed. We are pretty sure main function is executed. Then we have to call that function in main function. Right? Main function එකේ call කරොත් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම execute වෙනවා ඒ function එක. Okay, right. So now we have called that function. Find grade 70. Right? Okay. So let's execute now. 70, yeah? Mark 70. Let's see. Yeah. Ah, okay. Yes. Now it is executing. Now it is executing, but there's no output. Why is that? It is the same. Because, I mean, on screen, there is no output in this function. මේ function එකේ මොකුත්ම screen එකේ පෙන්වන දේවල් මේ function එක ඇතුලේ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. There's nothing is displayed on screen in this function. So that's why this function is executing now, right? Like, so first it will come here and then the first line is executed. Then first line is calling a function. So then it will go to this function, right? So let me copy this. Right. Okay, so, okay. When compiler is looking for, in this program, it will be looking for the main function, right? And then, yeah, main function is found. Then it will start executing the main function, okay? So it will go inside the function body and the first line. In first line, it is a function code. Then it will go to that function. Right? It will go to that function. To go to that function. And it will start executing that function. It will start executing this function. Okay, so then in this case, we have given this value. It will bring that value as well, 70, right? It will bring that value and it will assign that value 70 into this variable, marks. Now this marks variable is having 70. Okay, now execution is not in the main function anymore. Now it has moved into this function, right? Now this function is executed one by one. Now the main function is waiting. Main function is at this line, main function is, sorry, it's waiting. Main function is waiting. Main function එක බලාගෙන ඉන්නවා. එයා බැටන් එක දුන්නා find grade function. The main function is now main function has given the button to the find grade function. Now find grade function is run, right? Taken the button, right? So the value is given. Now it is executed. Now one line by line, right? So now it goes check the 70 and then the grade. So based on the value here, maybe this one. It will go to this one and this is true and then it will execute. The grade is assigned and then it will skip all the other, it will skip all the other values, right? It will skip other values and come to this one, right? The return grade. So grade is return. So what is the grade? Grade is B. So B is return. B is return. Return to where? Right? Return to where? So return, 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 return to this place. You can then find grade function is executed and it will come back to the starting point. So where we call the function. So the now return value is B. B is coming here. Coming here. Output is coming here. So input was taken in like 70. It was taken and then output is coming here. Output is B. Now, the problem in this program now is like we don't have anything to put that, right? Like in our machine example, right? So we have put rice, like a raw rice on top of this container, and then we start the machine, right? So now machine is working. And then the polished rice, the clean rice is coming out here. It is coming out. Now, so if we don't have a proper container to get that output. And the machine again, the machine again, hal වැටෙනවා හොගාලා. මේ හාල් වැටෙනවා. the view in them hal ඔන්න එනවා. එන හාල් ටික ගන්න අපි මොකක්ද තියලා තිබ්බේ නැත්නම් හාල් ටික බිමට වැටෙනවා. So in this program, the problem is we haven't defined anything to get the output. Output of this function can be taken, can be assigned to a variable if you want, right? So the output, so we have to give, so output is char type. So if you give char type variable, right? So then the output of this one would be coming into this, assigned to this one. So then we can print if you want. So let's print it. The grade is it's the type C, and then so yeah, gr. This variable is right. The grade is B. See, we input 70, then the output is B. So it is printed, right? So we can add something, right? Like for example, enter your mark. Enter your marks, right? We are going to take the user input, sorry, and then scanf. The ampersand. So then we need another variable, int marks. Marks, okay. Then the user input marks can be added. Now this program, enter your marks. So now it is very flexible. I can enter marks. So for example, 56, that's my mark. The grade is C. Enter your marks, 78. The grade is B. Likewise, so we can add more flexibility into this, right? Okay, now, so there's a question. So there's a question from one student. So in this method, so we have added printf statements. So we have added printf statements. So then why those are not printed? Why these are not printed? Why these are not printed? So that function is there now. So why those are not printed? The reason is we haven't called this function. So yes, Dinusha, we have to call the function in the main method. Yes. So suppose if we call this function, so for this function, there are no outputs from that function, and then no inputs. We just call that function. So let's, on top of the main function, let's call that function introduction, right? Hi, my name is Saman. How are you? So let's put 2. Hi, my name is Saman. How are you? Enter your marks, right? 78. The grade is B, right? So in that case, in this program, first it will go to this one, and then now the main method is waiting. It will go to this function and these lines would be executed. Here it will print hi. Next line, my name is Saman. The next line, how are you? Then 2 lines would be added. 2 empty lines would be added. And then it will go back. So there's no return value, anything, nothing, but it will go back here. So no return value. Then it will go to this line. Execute. This line is executed. Then take the input value, and then this line would be executed, and then it will go to that function, this function, and then it will be executed. So it will, as I told you, it will come here with the value that we input, right? So what is the value here? Marks. So marks, it is a variable. So the value in this variable would be taken into this method. When we are calling this method, when we are executing, it will take that value here, right? So this variable int marks, it is different from this variable. This is a different variable. The same name here. එකම නම මෙතන තිබ්බට මේ method මේ function එකේ තියෙන මේ variable එකයි මේ parameter එකයි මේකේ තියෙන මේ main method එකේ තියෙන මේකයි දෙකක් variable, two variables එකම නමින් තියෙන variables දෙකක්. ඒ tan දෙකක හින්දා ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. There are two, those variables are in 2 places, so no problem. So we can use this. Right? So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between the two variables. So this is the difference between they can have the same name. But if you feel, I mean, it is a little bit confusing, so you can change name. Right? So this is MR case. So then we call, so we use this name here, and then we use this name. So in this function, it is only visible this variable, not this variable. This variable is not visible there to the other function. This variable is only visible in main function. Okay. So the function has to be called. Otherwise, nothing would happen. Function has to be called. In this case, main method. But if you call a function, so if you call a function in main methods, that means the execution would go into that function, right? Then if you call a function in this method, this function, that's also fine, right? May function, if you call this function here, that's also fine. So may function එක call කරලා ඒක execute වෙද්දී අර function එකත් call. Right? Right. So don't worry. So those things could be so we'll see those things with some examples. So don't worry about that. So is it clear? Function calling. Right. So we call the function. Right. Function calling. At this point, the function is defined and declared. However, it is not executed until it is called by the main function, or sometimes other functions which are executed because they have already called. So function calling is the point where the defined function is really being used. So that's where we use the function. Function is called by its name if there are values to be passed to the parameters of the function. They are also given in between two parentheses. If there is one value, we can provide one value. If function is expecting two values, we provide two values. Those real values to be passed into the parameters are called arguments. So remember that. The values that we are passing, that we are giving to the function when it is calling, are called arguments. So arguments then are assigned to variables or parameters. So we have arguments, right? So here, right, this is the parameter. This 70, this value is the argument. 70 කියන value එක තමයි argument එක, මේ int marks කියන මෙන්න මේක තමයි parameter. So we assign this argument into parameter. Right? We assign the argument into parameter. Remember the difference, argument and parameters. There's a difference. So any questions? Any questions? So if you have any questions. So this is one example actually, the function calling. Yeah, so I will explain with this example. Huh? So function execution, right? So in this, right. So before that, like argument කියලා කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම දෙන values. ඒ function එක call කරද්දී දෙන value එක තමයි argument කියලා කියන්නේ. ඒ argument එක function එකේදී ඒ argument එක යන්නේ parameter. Parameter කියලා කියන්නේ variable එකක්. ඒ variable එකට assign වෙනවා argument එක. Argument එක හරි දෙක හරි ඒවා assign වෙනවා parameters වලට. In function calling, what will happen if we put void function at the beginning? What do you mean by the beginning? So in function calling, there's no such thing as beginning or end. We just call the function. So what do you mean by that? So you mean like this? So this is a void function. And then, so after that we call float. So what do you mean by what happened there? First, this function is called, then that function is executed. So then after that, we call this function, that function is executed. That's all. That's all. Nothing, I mean, if function is called, that function is executed. Simple as that. So we can call, well, for example, we can call the same function multiple times. That's also possible. Here, suppose I'm going to get another marks. Enter your marks again. Marks and then find grade. I'm calling that function again. Right? Hi, my name is Saman. How are you? Enter your marks. 45. The grade is D. Again, it asks enter your marks. If I enter second time, if I enter 89. So then, yeah. So I had to print. I have to print that. So I haven't printed that. Enter your marks. 55. The grade is D. Enter your marks again. The grade is A. Likewise, so you can call multiple times. So forget about this. We are taking is, right? Yeah. Forget about it. We are taking these. Right. Suppose we give different values here. 56, 70, right? So we call multiple times. Suppose 90. So we call this function again and again. See, multiple times. When main function is void, then what happens? So main function, it is fine. If it is void, then we don't have to put the return value here. It will work. Sorry. Yes, it will work. Actually, the time is, so it is, actually it is a time. So to finish the lecture, right? So I need another session with practicals. So the next Wednesday, yeah, we can do that next Wednesday, but before that, so let me check. Iduranga. So just let me know if you have any time, any extra time that we can have a lecture on, so before next Wednesday. So that means not during weekend, but so Monday or Tuesday. So I'm going to have an additional practical session. Additional practical session, if possible, right? If possible. Otherwise, no problem. We will have a regular lecture on Wednesday, right? So on Wednesday, right?
I will tell you later, sir. Because Nalaga sir and Chaman sir also asked for 2 free short slots to me conduct extra lectures.
Okay.
I will see.
Okay, so then give priority to them. Huh? So mine is not very, very necessary, right? So on Wednesday, next Wednesday, we can discuss the rest of these concepts. I mean, now basically the concepts have been discussed, and what we have to do is we have to understand, and then we have to, we need a little bit practice, more practice. So in that sense, I will just do some practicals on Wednesday, next Wednesday. So I'll do some practicals. I'll show some examples, right? Then we can finish the functions off, and then so I'm extending, right? I'm postponing your next assignment or the next exercise until that, right? After discussing all those things and then the examples, so then I can give you the exercise, right? So then the functions are over. So then we can move to the next topic, right? Like arrays and other topics like recursion, arrays, and then strings, and more advanced topics. Right, okay. So any other questions from the things that we have discussed? So I will upload the last practical sessions video and this video soon. So if I somehow forgot to do that, so Induranga, so please remind. Okay.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be you, but anyone from your batch, so you can just remind me to upload, because I mean I'm conducting 3 modules, and then I'm doing some other admin related works as well. So as multimedia coordinator, so like I'm doing a lot of things. So sometimes like it could be forgotten, like because like if I upload a video of one module, so then so in my mind, okay, so I uploaded the video. So sometimes it could so there could be some confusion as well. Sometimes I would upload the wrong video, right? Like audio production techniques video took years, right? So it could happen. So if I have done such things, so just remind me. Yeah? 31st, yeah. Like, so we can have the lecture on Wednesday, and we can arrange some additional practical on some other day, and then we can have we can have a rest day on 31st. The project. So to give you the marks, so I am assessing the project at the end of this semester, right? Like it's before the exam, I have to assess that, assess your project. So however, you can continue your project. So even after that, right? So as I told you, this is not just for the marks. So you should do this project not just for the marks, right? So it added something more into you, so skills, knowledge, and then something would be added to your CV as well. You can put it on your CV, right? When you are going to the training, right? So those things are there. So that's why I am asking you to do this project, right? So I am, so again, like before the next semester, or maybe the beginning of next semester, I am assessing it again. So I'm checking the progress at that time. So then, so based on what you have done, so I am choosing the best project, best 3 projects. And then I will, so with the signature of maybe the head of the department, or with the dean's signature, so I will give some certificates. And then maybe, if possible, I'm not decided, some prizes, right? And then there would be some opportunities as well, right? So I'm still finding things like there could be some special trainings for the winners in some companies. That likewise, so it could be different things, right? So for the marks for assessing, so you have to finish. You don't have to finish everything, but you have to finish something at the end of the semester before the exam. Okay. But actual project can be continued. You can continue it into the next semester, right? So I'll be monitoring what you are doing, and then if it is a good project, so we can, like if you come up with something really good with some good results, so then we can showcase in some exhibitions and then some other competitions outside, right? There are so much opportunities, right? So that's why it is important, okay? Right, so give so you will have some few days vacation during this season. So take that opportunity for the project, right? Right, so that's all for today. So you can have your lunch now and get ready for the next lecture in the afternoons. So that's all. Have a nice weekend. See you on Wednesday. Oh, if possibly, so if possible, before that, right? And if you have questions regarding your projects, message me tomorrow morning. Okay. Right. Thank you. And stay safe.